Welcome to Get Naked with Dr. Kate. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Balestrieri, a Beverly Hills-based psychologist, certified sex therapist, and the founder of Modern Intimacy. Thanks for joining me here where I talk about sex, relationships, mental health, and dive into your questions with practical answers and real solutions. Each week, I share insights aimed at helping you build an authentic and healthy relationship with yourself, with others, and with your sexuality. It's time to get naked, emotionally, mentally, and on your own time, physically. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Get Naked with Dr. Kate podcast. I'm Dr. Kate Balestrieri, a licensed psychologist, certified sex therapist, and the founder of Modern Intimacy. And my guest today is the amazing, wonderful, beautiful Tatiana Fogt, the host of the Bedside podcast.
Hi, everyone.
You're working on other things right now. Are you talking about that publicly?
Okay, it's like a little secret, but like I'm teasing it, soft launch.
Give us a little tease.
I'll give you a tease. Just for the Get Naked listeners. I am working on a sexual wellness line and product suite. So it's been really fun. It's been a lot of work, but good stuff, good, exciting, kind of refreshing sort of ideas. And
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Do you know when it will be ready for the world to know about?
So I'm hoping sometime in early to mid 2024.
Okay.
But I'm locking down a few things with my manufacturers right now, which is kind of dictating timelines. But those things are very important to get in order before everything's launched, just because, we want to make sure formulation is the best it can possibly be. So I'm really excited.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, thanks.
This is really cool. I can't wait to see what the line includes, and no doubt it'll be really pleasurable.
Yes, very, very pleasurable.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming back on the show today. I always love talking with you. It's so much fun.
Yes.
And you bring so much wisdom to listener questions. So I've got a bunch of them today. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the first question says...
Did you poll your audience, by the way?
I did.
Oh, fun.
And these are questions that people have submitted on, through the podcast, and they've just gone to...
Amazing.
People have submitted questions through my newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, you can go to modernintimacy.com/newsletter, sign up, and there's a space there every week to submit questions. And I answer them sometimes by myself and sometimes guests help.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, okay, first question reads, my partner and I have been in a wicked long dry spell. It's so dry, I can't even. What do I do?
I can't even. I relate. Dry spells are definitely not ideal. But I think that when it comes to breaking it, because it seems like this person is striving to break their dry spell. And I think it's particularly tough. I understand why it can be challenging when you're in partnership, right? Because when you're not in partnership, you're like, okay, well, listen, I'm on the dating scene. It's just maybe happening, maybe not happening. But with partnership, it can be extra dicey, nuanced and dicey, right? Because you're like, well, this is the person who quote unquote should be making me wet and excited. And, you shouldn't be feeling like you, right, quote unquote, shouldn't be feeling like you have a dry spell with them. So I understand the frustration there. But I think truly the best way to get through it is communication and acknowledgement of that. Because the more and more you sit with that and don't bring it up, the more and more you harbor resentment, you kind of then build upon and make the circumstance larger than it actually is, right? And I think we've talked about this before, but when it comes to actually communicating around something like a dry spell, something like needing more intimacy, we want to make sure we get to the root of it, because then the further we wait, the longer we wait, the more layered it becomes, and then it just gets harder to dissect. So
yeah, it does. And the layers get so thick with resentment, contempt, insecurity, frustration, and the disconnect between partners can really grow quickly when all of those other emotions are left unchecked, unmetabolized, unprocessed together. And it becomes this chasm of war, right?
Yes.
Partners can double down and start saying things like, well, I'm not going to initiate if you don't initiate, or if you don't initiate, then I want it. And it becomes, a power struggle as much as it becomes a quest for connection and for pleasure together. So it can be really hard. But I also want to say it's kind of to be expected and normal that partners go through periods where they're just not feeling as sexual together. And so maybe it's not as big of a deal if there aren't these other meanings attached to it. Like, are we okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's why earlier I was saying quote unquote should, because I think that's what happens with so much sex and intimacy, because we don't talk about these things because it's so taboo, and because our society hasn't made room for it. There's kind of this preset rule book of shoulds. And I think a lot of people look to that being like, well, this is what my sex life should look like. This is what my intimacy life should look like, versus being like, okay, well, actually, if I eliminate the shoulds, where do I stand here? And I think as well, like, is there a moment there for you to self-reflect and be like, okay, I understand I'm in a dry spell, but am I looking to my partner to fulfill my desire and my eroticism? Are they the person who is filling my cup 100%? Or where's my part in this? And how can I be the one to actually like reverse that narrative and be the one to fill up my cup and my zest and my life force energy and use my partner and utilize my partner as an enhancement to that?
Yeah. And invite them into it, right? So that they don't feel like a TaskRabbit, like, just like scratching an itch for you. I think it's really important to consider, how do the two of you, if there are two of you, or however many there are in your partnership, how do you intentionally like really create spark and zhuzh and energy and zest and all of those things? Because if somebody in the partnership is really struggling, maybe they're depressed, or they're struggling with something medical, or they're having a really heavy workload, it might be really hard for them to get out of that space and move into a place of eroticism. So how do you talk about that and like create balance in the relationship so that there can be balance in your bedroom?
Totally.
Yeah. Were you going to say more?
No, I'm in alignment.
Okay, so this question comes in from a 32-year-old woman in LA, and she wrote, I am looking to get started with my first ever casual sex practice. How do I do that? And how do I keep myself emotionally, physically, and sexually safe?
Ooh,
love this question.
I love this.
Yeah.
I also love, this is so sweet because I love the intentionality behind it. I can tell that this individual is so intentional. I can tell why they haven't, even by the question, been as in like a casual sex spell or whatever they've kind of like been up to. It seems like they're really intentional and mindful, which I think is so important for sex and intimacy. Honestly, like you are eons ahead of where I feel like a lot of people start with like their sexual exploration. So I commend you for this question, and also your grace in this, because I think, like you mentioned, having safety at the forefront is huge. I think when you're going into casual sexual experiences, I think it really starts with having kind of that internal conversation with yourself. What am I wanting? What am I seeking? What is fulfilling for me? And just like, whether you want to even like whip out a journal, I love whipping out my like voice memo notes app, or I'm just like going on a walk and like talking things through with myself and just being like, okay, what am I seeking in these more casual experiences? Is it looking to discover like unattaching myself from the way I maybe like go about seeking relationships and intimacy? Is it, looking for spontaneity and just a little bit more fun? And so I think getting to the root of that, and then really kind of outlining where and how you can go through those encounters that feel good to you. And in a way, having that idea in your head of, what's a boundary that I don't want to cross, especially in a casual experience, right? Am I somebody who wants to go on a date, but I don't want to like engage in intercourse on the first date, right? And I think these are discussions to have with yourself first. And I think as you're in the experience, you can feel it out, you can renegotiate with yourself, but it's almost like having a consensual experience with yourself first.
I love that. Oh, I really love that idea of creating consent with yourself first, because I think so many folks when they're getting started in casual sex or the hookup scene for the first time are really they're really trying to be good at it. And so they're really amenable to a lot of things because they want to not show up in a casual sex space and then have a lot of restrictions for themselves or with partners, because that's not what they understand casual sex to be. But I think you can have really strong boundaries in a casual sex container and experience. And it starts with getting real with yourself. Like, what do you want? I love this practice of sitting down and being more exploratory before you do it, so that you can think about, how do I want to show up for this? Because people approach casual sex in many different ways. Some people really love anonymous sex with strangers, where like they just meet and have a night or have an experience, and that's it. And for some people, that's the goal. That's what's the most enjoyable and the most pleasurable. While for other people, they at least want to have a meal with someone first and like get a basic understanding of, are their values in life and, more importantly, aligned. And then maybe they can think about being casually intimate with someone. So it's okay to have any of these approaches and anywhere in between. It's very all and really think about, when you're kind of sussing out who is a prospective partner, are they in alignment with kind of how they're approaching that experience too?
Yeah, I love that. I love how you even differentiated, and I think it comes down to knowing what your preferences are and kind of the way that you like to even meet and feel comfortable with people. Where, do you want to have that initial low stakes coffee date, meet up in the park, go on a walk, just right, like an initial, easing into it? Or are you someone who's like, I don't really care. I'm down for like going to a bar, getting hot and heavy, and just leaving. Yeah. So I think just understanding what works for you and what feels good to you. Because I think in casual sex, we want to be careful that we don't forget ourselves in the equation of it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that narrative of being in a casual sex experience and maybe leaving and being like, that was fun, but we didn't use the safer sex practices I like to have. Or, that maybe wasn't as fun as I thought it was. And now I feel like the anxiety of it the next day, right? And so I think to avoid that and to have that more intimate conversation with yourself first is just going to make it feel so much easier and just so much more playful. Like you can tap into that eroticism so much more easily.
Totally. And I think it's about an energy too. It's about, what am I bringing to this instead of what am I going to be presented with and say yes or no to. Like really set that intention clear for yourself. If you have certain ideas about what you need from a safer sex perspective, bring those accessories. Be prepared for that. Don't wait and hope that your prospective partner is going to show up and have the kind of barriers that you want, or have birth control that they are taking or have accessible. Be ready, bring it. Show up with what allows you to feel really prepared, really safe, and then it's easier to negotiate because it's right there.
Yep, I love it. I'm laughing because I was like, as you were saying that, I was like, this reminds me of my casual sex days. I would go out and I'd like have a little bag and I'd have like like a condom or whatever, right? But then I'd always, like, one of my non-negotiables was for packing was a little intimacy wipe, and then I'd always have a spare pair of underwear.
Oh my God, I love this so
like,
much.
Go out with like an extra thong. I'd be like, whatever, who knows where the night's gonna take me? Maybe I'm out dancing, maybe.
Oh my God, that's the best.
Yeah, pack your little going out kit. You know, you never know. Be ready.
Amazing. Amazing. I don't even think my purses were big enough for a condom when I would go out. I mean, I would bring them. I would cram them into my little whatever it was. My little, what are those called?
A clutch, like a little wallet.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
like
yes.
Barely a phone can fit in there.
Yeah, no.
But I would cram one in there. And sometimes I would stick a condom in my bra just in case.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Get creative, people.
You never know. Look, you've got to make do. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. So let's see. What's the next
I also want to
question?
just tell this person who wrote in this question, keep us posted. We want to follow
Yeah.
up. We want to know
That'd
how
be
it went
great.
for you.
Yes. And how do you take care of yourself after? I think when this is a first-time experience, it can bring up a lot of questions before it brings up a lot of answers in terms of what do I like or how do I feel? So what's going to be your practice after your experiences so that you can reconnect with yourself, take care of yourself, check in with yourself, and then make adjustments for the next experience if you need to, if you want to.
Love that. Great advice.
Okay, so this question reads, I want to get kinky and I don't have a consistent partner. What should I do?
Oh,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm curious what your take is on this.
So I think, it's really interesting. It sort of creates this overlap between a casual sex environment, potentially, or a dating environment, and then introducing kink. So if somebody's not really sure how to get started, there's a few things they can do. They can go to kinky communities, like a munch, for example, which is like a lunch or a brunch that is hosted by folks who are in the kinky community. And it's a great place to not engage in sex, but to learn about different kinky practices and get some kind of informal mentorship from other people who have a lot more experience playing in different kinky scenes and spaces than you do. It is a great place to meet people, too, that you can play with later if that's what you want. But there are different apps like Field or FetLife that can be a great place to meet folks who are looking for something maybe a little bit more casual and who do have kinky experience so that you can find someone who's aligned with what you want to try.
I love that. I was going to say, you reminded me with the like munch scenario. I've never heard of that, by the way. That's amazing.
Oh.
Is that just like a generic term for like meetups of that sort?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Within the kinky community, they're in most bigger cities. I'm not sure about how frequently they exist in smaller communities, but in most bigger cities, there are regular munches. You can just Google and kind of find where they are.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Great tip. I was going to say that this might be more applicable to bigger cities. Again, like smaller communities, I'm not sure what the accessibility around this is like, but explore what different sex parties are like in your area. They're not necessarily what one might think it is. Also, maybe it is. There are all different types of sex parties and experiences that you can enter. But what's really cool, and I haven't done this, but I've been interested in exploring events like this where you can kind of go into these curated spaces where, you can just purvey. You can be an observer. You can do what you want, like at different levels. Like I'm not, whatever is like kind of been pre-disclosed for what this event allows. But from what I've heard from some friends who have gone, they can be like really chic experiences.
Oh, yeah.
You can go to these really gorgeous kind of event spaces that have bars and, separate rooms and just different like kind of entire moments to walk through. So I think just exploring what that can look like IRL for you could be really exciting. And then if you aren't sure if you have access to spaces like that in person, because I guess a quick caveat to that is you don't have to be in partnership to explore that. I think in general, like you don't have to be in partnership to explore your kinks. And there are so many different modalities. And I would definitely start with exploring online and kind of seeing how that branches out to IRL.
Yeah, I love that idea of going to a sex club or a sex party. There are really great ones that are really organized around safety and consent. And when you get interested in a space, you can give them a call or send an email to get more clarity on how they organize consent and safety. And most of those places are really, really great at self-policing, meaning that the community there is really invested in safety because they want it to be a safe, fun place for everyone too. So if people start to exhibit wonky boundaries, most of the places that I've heard of are really quick to say, hey, that's not what we do here, and to correct the behavior or to ask that person to leave. I know a lot of folks get really nervous about if it's a safe experience.
Yes. Yep. Totally.
But if you're not ready to go play with other people just yet, and you're looking to be more curious in terms of how you can incorporate it into your solo sex life, you can go down all different kinds of rabbit holes on the internet and start exploring erotic material that speaks to the kind of kink that you're curious about or that you know you're interested in, and maybe begin to practice some of it by yourself if that's available to you. Some of it requires a partner if it's a role play kind of thing. But if you're looking for more sensation play, or you're looking for different kinds of experiences that you can replicate on your own, that can be a way to kind of practice with yourself that's very low stakes because it's just you. And you can get used to things like, oh, how would I feel if I were in this position, or if I had this sensation in my body, or with temperature play, or whatever it might be. So that can be a way to kind of get more exposure to something if you're newer even in understanding what you like.
Yeah, I love that. I love the advice on just like letting yourself explore and see all the different options. And there will be things you'll have a hell no around, you know, and then there'll be other things you're like, that kind of piques my interest. And other things you're like, okay, this really this is doing something. So I think that's kind of the fun part about it. And, you know, just following again your intuition of what is aligning and what's not. This is like not a sponsored plug, but the Quinn app has been something really interesting in terms of like audio erotica. And I think that's kind of a cool modality to explore some of these different kinks, even through audio form, as an initial exploration, if you will.
Yeah, what I love about apps like Quinn and Dipsy, also, this is not a sponsored plug.
Not sponsored, open to it.
Yes. Well, you know, Dipsy has advertised with us, so maybe there will be an ad. I shouldn't say it's not sponsored. I don't know what this episode will include.
Yeah.
But anyway, unintentional plug anyway. What's great about apps like this is that they really model consent. And they model communication around kink and around trying new things in a really healthy and sexy way. So it's a really cool way to learn about how you might want to speak that with a partner.
Yep. I love it. So cool. Yeah. Great question. Really.
It is. It's a great question. Okay. So this question reads, my partner and I just broke up and I'm devastated because the sex we had was the best I've ever had. How do I get over never having that sex again?
Never say never. Excuse me. Okay, I get it. You're in your heartbreak moment and feeling all the feels, but I would look at this scenario as, thank you so much, XYZ partner, for showing me that this is capable for my sex life, that I have this within me, that I can co-create this with someone else. Thank you for opening this door for me, and I cannot wait to explore it with another partner at some other time when I feel healed or ready for the next step. But by no means was that the cap or peak on your last great sexual experience. If anything, buckle up.
Right. Now you get to practice really articulating what you like with yourself and then learning how to advocate for that with other partners and making sure that all the things, all the bells, all the whistles, all the connections that you had with that partner are there. And it might take some time to find another partner with whom you feel that same chemistry and energy and connection. But there are a lot of people in this world, and there are a lot of approaches to sex. So I have a lot of confidence that this person will find good sex again.
Yes.
Will create good sex again.
Yes. It's going to be epic. And I think another reminder too is, don't be judgmental of the upcoming sexual experiences that you may have after this if they don't live up to that, because I think, again, to your note, the sexual experiences you co-create sometimes take time, right? Like we got to break in the shoes, and we have to learn how our bodies come together and express and connect and even build that emotional intimacy over time, or all the different modalities intimacy can, the different containers intimacy lives in. So I think it is something that evolves. So, just a little caveat to not be too hard on yourself if it doesn't immediately get back to where it once was.
Totally. And that can be, I think, a really hard place to live, because if you're coming from a place where the bar is really high, wow, can it feel super low if it even falls short of that experience a little bit. But to your point, it's good to remember, if that relationship started with hot and heavy, great sex and awesome chemistry, it might feel hard to believe that it can start kind of mediocre and get really great.
Yeah.
Right? But if it did start mediocre in your last relationship and then it got great, maybe that's something to hold on to as confidence that not every sexual experience is going to be, the off the walls kind of thing that you're used to, but it can grow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't obviously have any insight into why you are no longer in partnership, but you're no longer in partnership, which is insinuating that there was lack of intimacy in other categories of your dynamic. So I would say that, when we really find someone who just feels so good to us and we're in a healthy dynamic, it's a really nice balance of different types of intimacy. And it's not always just this like crazy sex, right? Like the pendulum needs to be a little bit evened out.
That is such a good point and such a great reminder, right? Like, what is the goal of partnership? And how important is sex to you in that partnership? And are there other things that help enhance the sex that perhaps were missing in this previous dynamic?
Yeah, 100%. And I like even think of this in my own like long-term dynamic too. I'll just like throw in some relatable anecdotes. When you're in longer-term partnerships, sometimes, you get familiar with your partner or whoever you're seeing. And it isn't always this crazy off-the-wall sexual experience. But I look to the relationship that I'm in and I'm like, oh my gosh, we can do that if we really like talk about it and we're like, let's co-create this awesome experience, right? But I think there's something to it where sometimes I even hold like I look back to some of my former sexual experiences that were just good, crazy, wild sex for the sake of good, crazy, wild sex. And I'm like, that was awesome. What, did I want to be in a relationship with that person? No, certainly not. And so I think I look to that like version of myself being like, oh, that was a cool, fun experience and way to express my sexuality. But like what I'm actually seeking in a longer term dynamic isn't necessarily 100% that. Sure, we can make that happen. But like I'm really looking for like much more emotional intimacy, et cetera, in that substantial dynamic. So just some food for thought.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Okay, next question reads, my partner has a lot of pain during sex, and she said she doesn't want to have sex for a while, but it's already been a while, in fact, over 2 years. I'm losing patience, and I feel like I'm involuntarily celibate. How can I move forward? Because I love my partner and I don't want to cheat on her, but I also can't not have sex anymore.
Oh my God, there's a lot there.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to have you kick this one off.
Oh,
I really am, because I think you have some good wisdom around this.
Well, I think these relationship dynamics are so tricky because both partners have really valid needs and really valid desires around safety and around pleasure and around how to kind of move through the stuck point. And the partner who's experiencing pain is probably terrified of that pain and doesn't want to engage in sex that doesn't feel good and in fact hurts, right? So really valid that they are maybe taking a beat to recuperate and feel differently in their body. But Esther Perel talks about this in her book, State of Affairs, and she calls this sort of enforced celibacy, right? When one partner is not willing to be sexual with the other partner for whatever reason, it does create this like experience of celibacy that wasn't sought out and can be really difficult to sit in no matter how much you love someone and really respect what they're going through, which is what I hear in this dynamic. So, I mean, the questions that come up for me for this couple are things like, is she getting help for the pain that she's experiencing during sex? Do they have the ability to talk about it? Maybe going to a couples therapist is a great place for them to start kind of processing their grief, their mutual grief and fear and distress around this together. Have they talked about opening their relationship for a little while and, to create some opportunity for sexual connection or pleasure for him? I have a lot of questions that I would really be curious with them about before I could even start to help them figure out what their options are.
I agree with you. And I think that I'd be interested to know, do you both have the same end desire, right? Do you both want to reignite your sex life in some capacity, right? And if that's a yes, if you've even had a conversation of deciphering that, that's amazing. And I think when there's a will, there's a way. So I think there are many different directions this can go. Like you said, it's so nuanced that we have a little bit more follow-up before we can give you like stay or leave, right? Like, should I stay or should I go? But I think it's more, I would have you ponder or see if you can even, like Kate said, in even a therapy setting, kind of distill what is it that you both are looking for. And, kind of move on from there.
Yeah, and if you think about a more expansive definition of sex that goes beyond penetration, what other opportunities exist for you to connect sexually? Is oral sex something that's on the table? Is manual stimulation something that's on the table for either of you? Is anal sex something that's on the table? Are there ways to connect in non-sexually but physically intimate ways, like massages or skin-to-skin contact? Like, what other ways can you try to get some of that same source around connection and pleasure together that maybe don't need to go into penetration?
Yes, I love that. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
The last thing I would maybe wonder, and I don't know if this is true for this couple, obviously, but in these kinds of dynamics, what can happen is that the partner who wants to be sexual might start talking about it more. They might ask about it more. They might start to, sometimes innocently, because they're really kind of feeling that desire to connect and they're curious and they're hopeful. But sometimes it can be a little bit more, I'll use the word sinister, and can even start to sound like pressuring or coercion.
Yep.
And in either scenario, it can feel really pressuring to the partner who is not amenable or available for sex right now. And that pressure has an inverse relationship on desire, right? So the more somebody feels that their partner is entitled to sex or feels entitled to sex with them, the bigger the drop in their own desire is going to be. And when that happens, it can create more bracing and more protection in the body, which can increase
to the physical reaction.
Yeah, it can increase or reinforce that pain, and then it's more of like a pain and avoidance and frustration cycle for them.
Yep, absolutely. And I feel like you guys might be at a good point in your relationship to investigate that more and kind of desensitize the buildup around sex and intimacy for you guys and just kind of distill it, shed the layers down.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
I almost see like you have to make like an infographic of that. I just visually saw that whole pressure to pleasure chart.
Yeah, right. Pressure goes up, desire goes all the way down. Yeah. It's such like a commonly experienced dynamic in partnerships where there's mismatched desire. but it's so infrequently talked about. And then
no one wants to talk about it.
No one wants to
No
talk
one wants
about
to admit that their sex life isn't what they want it to be.
Totally.
Even to their best friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, wait, do you ever have friends who talk about that openly?
Not many of them.
Really?
Some of them do. Some are pretty open and honest. And I find those conversations really relieving. Yeah. And then everyone's like, oh, yeah, me too. Da, 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 da. But there are certain dynamics that it doesn't get talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's just so much fear about making it real and shame. And then, of course, a lot of folks get really uncomfortable talking about sex to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
All right. This person says, I've been dating this guy for about a year, and we have a solid routine of dates and sex and dates and sex, but we rarely kiss. How can I make it known to my partner that I want more kissing without hurting his feelings?
I don't think you need to worry about hurting someone's feelings. Because it's not personal.
Right.
So I would remove that. Obviously, have any conversation you have through a lens of empathy. And, we're not here to be cruel and punishing to anyone that we love. But I think when it comes to our desires, just say it. Just put it on the table. Hey, it really turns me on when we kiss. Or like, I really love making out. Can we bring that more into our connection? And for the most part, your partner is going to be willing to, they want to please you, right? And so, and I think it's always like a mutually beneficial scenario. Maybe they're just, on less into it potentially, or maybe they're just more excited about something else that they're like, let's skip this part. Like, let's get to the other stuff, right? And so I think just letting them know that that's something that's really important and integral to your intimacy language. It's something that turns you on and that you'd love to establish bringing back into your dynamic in some way. And I think the best way to do that, I love having an intimacy recap kind of after we've been intimate, instead of like, you don't want to be in an experience being like, don't do this, demanding and controlling. I think it's more either in the moment feeling the comfortability to say, hey, can we kiss a little longer? This feels really good. Or afterwards being like, recapping your experience, saying this was really fun. I loved this part. You know what I would love to explore more of? Let's kiss more. Let's make out more. It just feels so good.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really important to be direct about what you like, but also to come from a place of curiosity and not in the moment, like you said, but maybe later when you're having dinner, lunch, or coffee in the morning, like, hey, what's your take on kissing? How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Is there something that I could be doing different in the way that I kiss that would make it more interesting for you? Some people have a lot of insecurities about bad breath, or they don't think they're a good kisser, or it might be more intimate than they want to be, right? For some people, kissing is super, super intimate, and they do that when they have a strong connection with someone. For other people, no, not so much. They kiss, and that's a part of how they like to be sexual, and it doesn't carry that big charge. But it might be that maybe there's an emotional piece there that needs to be talked about too.
Yeah. And you know what you made me think about as well? It doesn't even need to be like make out mouth-to-mouth kissing, right? Like explore what kissing means to you and what you like about it. And maybe you like your neck being kissed, or your back, or just different erotic zones of your body. And you might discover something together that you both really love as part of your intimacy.
Love that so much. I want to address her part of the question where she says, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I hear that a lot from people, but especially from women who are in partnership with men.
Yeah.
And what I hear there is, I'm afraid I'm going to say something that will make him upset. And then maybe our intimacy will be even more fractured, right? And so I think it's also an important point of curiosity to explore, do you feel safe in this relationship to express the needs that you want? And do you feel like they will be heard, witnessed, understood, attended to? And if not, that might be something else to be curious about in addition to the kissing.
Right. That's such a good note. And it made me think too of like, you know, I think specifically speaking very heteronormatively here, a lot of women are conditioned to look through the lens of, am I hurting someone? Am I being a good girl? Am I, you know, being nice? Yeah. And I think this is kind of all a bit of like an untangling of that. And, you know, remembering that, of course, you know, again, like I said, if we're not being cruel, but we can speak our truth. But, you know, maybe recognize that, like you were saying, are there conditions that you're connecting your truth to that then you think like the shoe's going to drop, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for your insights today. This is awesome.
Yes. So fun.
Great.
Wait, I have a fun game I want to play with you.
You do?
Can I hijack?
Yes. Always. Let's go. What are we doing?
Have you heard of the game called Smash or Pass?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Let's do it. Okay.
Okay, so we're doing Smash or Pass Celebrity Edition.
Okay. Oh.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my hijacking of the Get Naked podcast. Yeah, so we were playing Smash or Pass Celebrity Edition. And yeah, it's a rapid fire. You can add some comments in there too. I'll give my hot take too.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
You've got a list?
I've got a list, girl.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Smash or pass Harry Styles?
I'll smash.
Smash, baby. Same. I want like a hot, honestly, I wonder what he's like in bed. Do you think he's sweet, or do you think he's psycho?
Well, I don't.
Is there an in between?
I'm not going to put the word psycho on sex. I think that he has the potential to be a really great lover because of. This is maybe a weird thing to even speculate about, but I think because sex is so subjective, right? So what is a great lover?
Yeah.
Even, right? But in terms of the kind of sex I like, I think he could be great because he seems more in touch with his body.
Yes.
He seems more in touch with different elements of his identity.
I love that about him.
Flexible. And like, for me, that's super sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Smash or pass Beyonce?
Oh, smash.
Smash.
Yeah.
There's just no explanation there.
I love her so much.
Smash or pass Drake?
I'm going to pass. How about you?
Me too.
Okay, but why?
Okay, I don't know Drake that well. And honestly,
do you know him?
No, I don't. I wish I did. Wow, I said that like I knew Drake, distant cousin of mine. No, I'm just not interested in him. He doesn't, I'm not physically that attracted to him. I think that's where it starts. Timothée Chalamet.
Is Kendall Jenner or Kylie Jenner part of that? Is it a threesome?
We can make it a threesome.
Okay, smash.
Smash by way of Kylie Jenner.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, smash or pass Jason Momoa?
Smash.
Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Smash or pass Cara Delevingne?
Smash.
Absolutely smash.
Yeah.
She has a sex room. Have you seen her Arc Digest?
You know, I haven't seen it.
It's like a plush pink sex room.
Smash, smash, smash,
and
smash.
there's a vagina tunnel that you crawl through.
Yes, please. Yes. Smash.
Smash or pass Travis Kelce?
Oh, I smash. Yeah.
I would. Okay, I want to smash, but like I want to be friends with Taylor more. So I don't know if it's like a smash to get a song written about me sort of situation or like don't smash to be besties with Taylor. Like I don't know what my in is, but I'm on the fence.
I mean, if it's a choice between Taylor and Travis, Taylor all the way. Yeah.
All right. Smash or pass John Mayer?
Pass.
Pass.
This was really fun.
This was a blast.
I fully expect to get hate mail and cease and desist letters from people.
Oh my God. I know. Guys, please don't judge us for this. This is all for fun and games.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tatiana. Where can people reach you? You've got your podcast, The Bedside.
Yes, you can.
And where else?
You can catch me at The Bedside on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. And most importantly, The Bedside Podcast, wherever podcasts are found.
Amazing. Thank you. And everyone, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Get Naked with Dr. Kate. Stay connected with me on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Kate Balestrieri. Everyone has questions, and I want to answer as many as I can. So feel free to email your questions to question@getnakedpodcast.com. If you're looking for a free 30-minute consultation with me or someone on my team, visit modernintimacy.com. And don't forget to join our newsletter, Modern Intimacy, on Substack. Let's meet back here next week. A new episode drops every Tuesday. Disclaimer, this podcast is not a substitute for therapy and does not constitute a professional relationship with Dr. Kate Balestrieri or Modern Intimacy. This podcast is strictly for education and entertainment purposes only.